It was supposed to be a peaceful weekend at my lakeside cabin, a perfect escape from the bustle of everyday life. The serene water, the towering pine trees, and the fresh air were all I needed to recharge. However, Karen, the local HOA president, had other plans. She'd been eyeing my cabin for months, claiming that my property was in violation of some obscure HOA rules. Of course, there were no violations. My cabin was perfectly within the guidelines. But Karen, with her constant need to control everything around her, couldn't accept that. She arrived at my cabin one afternoon, knocking on the door with an ultimatum. I had to leave or face penalties. I stood there in disbelief. Leave? This is my property, and I have every right to be here, I calmly explained. But she was relentless. She insisted that I had no right to be there, demanding that I vacate immediately. When I refused, she didn't skip a beat. Karen marched to the phone, calling 911 and claiming that I was trespassing on community property and causing a disruption. "This is an emergency," she shouted to the dispatcher. As I stood there, trying to make sense of her outlandish behavior, the officers arrived at the scene. They listened to Karen's accusations, but they weren't buying it. I greeted them with a smile and explained that I owned the entire piece of land, as well as the surrounding area. In fact, I had recently purchased the entire lakeside block as part of a citywide development project, unbeknownst to Karen. The officers were a bit taken aback, especially when I showed them the deed to the property, which was indeed in my name. Karen's face turned crimson with embarrassment. She hadn't bothered to do her research and had assumed, like so many others in the neighborhood, that I was just another easy target. The officers were kind but firm, telling her that there was no issue here and that she needed to calm down. Karen, utterly defeated, tried to salvage the situation by accusing me of harassment, but the officers had already seen enough. As they left, they gave me a respectful nod, reminding me to continue enjoying my property. Karen, on the other hand, slunk away, no longer the voice of authority she once believed herself to be. As I sipped my coffee by the lake, I couldn't help but smile. It wasn't just my cabin I was protecting, it was the peace and privacy I had every right to enjoy.